Hey SoulLink Chaperones, quick video here because there's a lot of information that I need to share with you before we leave on Friday. And unfortunately, Friday I'm going to be busy with the search committee and some other meetings right up until the point we leave. So that's why we're here. I've got an email that's going to go out to you, and I will have all this same information printed out for our packets, but I wanted to give you a little video option here if you don't want to read through the extraordinarily long email that is going to accompany this video. So here we go. Real quick, we're going to do chaperone groups this year. These are going to be based on the students that are staying in the room with you. And what I'm going to ask, because our group is so large, we're going to have 50 students going, I'm going to ask that each one of us keep up with the 4 or 5 students that are in our hotel room throughout the entire weekend, and that's just going to make things run a lot more smoothly. So let's start with check-in on Friday. We're going to have everyone show up here at Northside around 3 o'clock. They'll come upstairs, and I'm going to need 2 to 3 volunteers to help with check-in. When they come in to check in, just make sure that they've paid. Most everyone is paid at this point, but there might be a couple that have payment when they come and check in. And then once you've got that, you're going to give them their chaperone assignment, and you're going to give them their room assignment, and you're going to give them their van assignment. So they are going to have an assigned van, which I'll talk more about here in just a few minutes. At that point, you can encourage them to go down to their assigned van, put their backpack, their pillow, whatever they have in there, and be ready to go. And then that's the time to go take a quick bathroom break, fill up water bottles, anything else that they might need to do before we leave at 3:30. Once everyone is checked in, we'll gather outside, and we'll say a prayer, and then we'll load up in the vans and we'll hit the road. If you're not one of the volunteers that's helping with check-in, if you will help keep an eye on everybody, both inside and outside of the building, and make sure that we don't get too crazy before we load up, that would be great. Okay, let's talk about medication real quick. So students are going to be responsible for their own medication, and the reason for that is we're just not qualified. We're not qualified to administer medication. But that being said, if you have students that are going to be taking medication, I strongly encourage you to witness them take that medication, because we have had some issues in the past where there was a question as to whether or not they actually took their medication. So do yourself a favor and watch them take the medication. It'll make it better for them and for you, both. All right, now back to transportation. We have 4 15-passenger vans rented, and Jeff Cumby is also going to be taking his truck. So like I said before, each student is going to be assigned to a van, and these assignments are for the duration of the weekend. So please do not allow them to move to another van. It just creates problems, it creates chaos, and if they stay in their same van, everything will run a lot more efficiently. The one exception to this is going to be the few that are assigned to Jeff's truck. So we're going to start out with chaperones being in Jeff's truck from Northside to Bammel, and also on the return trip on Saturday night. But when we leave Bammel on Friday night, the guys that are going to be staying with Jeff are going to ride back to the hotel in his truck, and the chaperones that have been in his truck will go in one of the vans that's going to their hotel. So I'm going to have a spreadsheet with all this too. If that sounds confusing, don't worry. We'll have everything there for you to check out. Also, hopefully everyone will have a small backpack and just a pillow. That's kind of what we've instructed them to bring, and they can just put that under the seat in the van. But if there's any larger items, Jeff will have room for a few larger items in the back of his truck as well. Okay, when we get on the road, we are going to stop at Buc-ee's on the way there and back. Now the goal is to be in and out of Buc-ee's in 15 minutes. And now you're going to have to really communicate this very clearly to your groups, because we're going to have over 50 people that are descending upon Buc-ee's all at the same time, which means they need to minimize the amount of shopping they do while they're in there, and they need to make their pit stops and their purchases quickly and then get back out to the vans so that we can all load up and go. I think if we each keep track of our own smaller groups that I talked about earlier, then this should be very doable. And on the return trip, keep in mind it's going to be like probably after 11 p.m. or close to that. So that should be primarily just a pit stop. We're not going to spend a lot of time there loading up on sugary snacks that late in the day. Okay, this is a big one. A little change from last year, if you went last year. Our cell phone policy is going to be more like it is at summer camp. So students will only be allowed to have their cell phones and their earbuds or headphones, whatever they've got, during the van ride from Northside to Bammel, and then on Saturday night from Bammel back to Northside. So each chaperone is going to have a gallon-sized Ziploc bag. I'm going to give you one of those, and then when we arrive at Bammel on Friday night, you're going to be responsible for taking up the cell phones for the students that are in your room or in your group. And then you need to be the one that keeps track of them throughout Friday night and throughout Saturday until we return them to them on Saturday night when we load up to come home. Now, of course, if they need their phone for an emergency, they can come to you. But when we're at the hotel on Friday night, I'm going to ask that you keep those in a secure place. You know, many of our students don't have their own cell phone right now, or they don't have unsupervised access to a cell phone at home. So we don't want the phones accessible while they sleep. It's just too big of a temptation. Also, once we're at Bammel, we'll figure out a way to charge up the phones at some point during the day so they'll be ready for them on the return trip home. Now, let's talk about at Bammel. If you went last year, you've got a pretty good feel for this already probably, but if this is your first year, our entire group needs to sit together once we get there. And that's a little difficult because we're going to have such a big group. We'll have to find a section that's got enough empty rows. But I think we should be able to do that without too big of a problem. And last year, our group did this really well without us even saying anything. They all wanted to sit together. But we want to just make sure that they do that again this year. Nobody wanders off from the group because it's too hard to keep track of where everyone is if they're not all together. I also encourage you to sit with them and worship with the group as well. It's going to be a great time of worship. It's just awesome. But this also helps deter them from making those unnecessary bathroom breaks, which they tend to do when they get a little antsy. Now, if they need to go, that's fine, of course, but I would ask that we discourage them from going in large groups, and we also discourage the steady stream of one after another because it's just distracting to everyone else that's there. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for restroom breaks throughout the day, so you know, when we're in worship, when there's a speaker, or we're in class, let's try and discourage them from going to the bathroom during those times. All right. Hotels. Okay, so we're going to be split up in between two hotels. They're both Holiday Inn Expresses. They're just in different locations. Neither one is the hotel that we stayed in last year, and we chose these hotels this year because they sleep 6 instead of 5. Which means we didn't have to secure as many rooms and saved a little money. Each room is going to have 2 queen beds and a sofa bed. So some of you are going to have 5 people total in your room. Some of you will have 6 people total. And we're going to be bringing the 8 twin size air mattresses that we have here at church. But we could use 4 more because that would allow each room to have at least 1 air mattress if they need it. So if you have one and you can bring it, just let me know. And then also if each one of us could bring 1 set of twin size sheets for those air mattresses, that would be a lot easier than trying to figure out which student needs to bring sheets and that sort of thing. If we each bring 1 sheet, then every room will have an air mattress. Every room will have a set of sheets for the air mattresses. All right, now once we're at the hotel, I mean, they can figure out how they want to sleep. If they want to double up in the beds, if they want to sleep on the floor, that's up to them. And some of you are going to have your own child in the room with you. If that's the case, then by all means you can share the bed with your child and free up more space for the other kids in the room. However, if you are not in a room with your own child, do not share a bed with any of the students. You need to be in a bed all alone and not sharing a bed with any of them. Now, I would like the adults to have the first right to the actual beds, but if you prefer to sleep on an air mattress or you want to sleep on the sofa bed, that's entirely up to you. You can do that as well. We want them to get a good night's rest, which brings us to lights out. So let's talk about lights out. SoulLink should dismiss around 9:45 on Friday night. Each hotel is about 10 minutes away. And we're going to have a scout team that goes and checks us in after we drop the rest of the group off earlier that evening. So that means when we get to the hotels, everyone should be able to go straight to their hotel room, and you should be there hopefully by 10:15 that evening. remember, they're not going to have their cell phones, so there shouldn't be any late night DoorDash orders or any unplanned distractions like that. This time should be used for getting showers, prepping for bed, getting cleaned up. Now, they're going to want to go to each other's rooms. They're going to want to go to the lobby. So here's what I'm going to ask with that. If they want to go to the lobby, we need at least one chaperone in the lobby with them, and that chaperone needs to have their own students out of the room, so the students aren't left alone. We did have some issues last year where some of our kids went to the lobby and they were asking the hotel front desk some inappropriate questions as they played Truth and Dare, so we want to avoid that this year. And then also, let's not allow them to just be running up and down the halls. Remember that at this point in the evening, it's going to be pretty late. We need to be respectful to the other hotel guests that are there, and think about the need for quiet during that time. And then finally, just do everything you can to avoid being left alone in your room with only one of the students. Now, if it happens and it's necessary, then I'm going to ask that you prop the door open somehow so that you're not behind a closed door with just one of the students. That's a recipe for disaster that we want to make sure it doesn't happen. So if you can help out with that, that would be great. And then lights out will be 11:30. So this is for their benefit and for your benefit, because remember, Saturday is going to be an extremely long day and they do need to get some rest on Friday night. Okay, food's pretty easy. Like I said, we're going to stop at Buc-ee's on the way there, but I have encouraged them to bring a sack lunch, because if everyone tries to order hot food at Buc-ee's, we'll be there for 45 minutes. So try to encourage them to have their sack lunch with them. You know, they can get an icy or snacks or whatever, and I think we can still get in and out of there pretty quickly. In the morning, on Saturday morning, both of the hotels have the same setup. They're going to both offer a complimentary hot breakfast, including eggs, turkey sausage, biscuits and gravy, fresh fruit, yogurt, cereal, and cinnamon rolls. So if you want something other than those things, you need to bring it with you and be prepared. And then on Saturday, during lunch, everyone's going to need money for their own lunch. We're going to have the option of staying on campus and ordering from food trucks, or going off-site to a restaurant or restaurants. So let's decide on that on Saturday, maybe as a group of chaperones, and see what we want to do. Then Saturday night, we'll all be staying at BAML. SoulLink's going to provide pizza for our group, and our group will get to go off and have our own Northside group time, where we kind of get to process everything that we've been a part of Friday night and all day Saturday. So it's a really special time. It's going to be really great. And then, like I said, we'll stop at Buc-ee's on the way home Saturday night, but that's really more of a pit stop than a snack break. Speaking of breaks, last one, and then we'll get out of here. Chaperone breaks. Yes, there are chaperone breaks, and you're going to need them. Trust me, and you're going to want them, and I want you to take advantage of them. So there's a hospitality room that will be set up at BAML just for the chaperones. The youth are not allowed in there. It's just for the chaperones. It'll have snacks, it'll have drinks, and all that stuff is going to be provided for us. So take advantage of this as needed. The one thing I'm going to ask is that we communicate with each other, so that when someone does need a break, we can ensure that we don't leave, 2 people with 50 kids, and the rest of us go off to the hospitality room. So we can go, a few at a time, but leave enough behind to keep an eye on the group. And then also, to avoid the youth wanting the treats from the hospitality room, just do us all a favor and enjoy these in the room itself or away from the group. Don't bring them back to the group and be snacking on the things that they're going to want and not be able to get. And then finally, if you find the excitement of the weekend a little more exhausting than you anticipated, there are some comfy couches at the back of the worship center, and Haley Mulliken will be happy to show you where these are located, and if you ask very nicely, she may even demonstrate for you how to take advantage of those comfy couches. Okay, I think that's all I've got for now. For those of you that went last year, if there's anything I'm forgetting here, you can share that with the group as well. Hopefully that gives you a good rundown of what's going to happen this weekend. And again, I'm going to have all this printed out for you as well. So if you don't remember everything right now, that's fine. Just wanted to give you kind of a heads up as we get ready for for Friday. Really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for sacrificing your time and for serving our youth during this weekend. It's going to be awesome. I'll see y'all on Friday.